Hey guys, today we are going to use JavaScript to create a Bitcoin text alert service. So I'm going to show you guys how it works real quick and then we'll dive into making it. So first off, let me start the application here and you guys will see. Wait for the text to arrive. Here we go, and you guys will see Bitcoin alert pops right up there, and when we press that, you guys can see there that we have the price of a Bitcoin. All right. So you guys, to start making this, we don't want the JavaScript to run in the browser. So we are actually going to use NodeJS to do this. Now, if you guys haven't used NodeJS before, we're going to walk through step by step how to install it and how to create our application with it. So hang tight. Alright, so the first thing that we want to do here is go on over to nodejs.org, and you guys are going to want to download Node.js here. So go ahead and do that, pause the video, and when that is done, we will get started. So once you have Node downloaded on your computer, what you're going to want to do is go ahead and create a file or a folder on your desktop for our application. So let's go ahead and move over to our desktop. And we're going to make a folder, and you guys can call it whatever you want. For the purpose of this video, I'm just going to call it test, but go ahead and call it Bitcoin text alert or whatever you guys want to call it. So we're going to make our test folder. Now, once we are in our test folder or your folder for this application, we are going to go ahead and call Npm Init. So what this is going to do is create a file called a JSON file where we're just going to store information about our application. So go ahead over to terminal or command prompt, whether you guys are on Mac or Windows, and navigate over to your folder, and then you're going to type in npm init and we're going to hit enter. So first off, I was actually in my desktop there. So I'm going to move over to the folder. So we're going to see CD desktop. All right, and let's go ahead and I'm going to move over to the test folder. Now you guys, again, npm init. And there we go. Now it's going to pop up with a small prompt here. This is just asking for information about your program. So you can see package name. It's going to be test. It'll set that for you. The package name will be the name of the folder. So we're just going to click enter. Version, just click enter. Description, here you guys can enter a description of the program. So we're just going to call it Bitcoin text alert. All right. And entry point, just click enter. Test command, enter. Git repository, you can just click enter for that. Keywords, enter. Author, go ahead and put your name in there if you want. And license, again, you're going to click enter. Then it's going to pop up with our information showing us what our JSON is going to look like. And then, is this okay? Yes. Just click enter again, and there we go. So now we created our JSON file for our program here that again will just contain the information about the program. So now that we're still in our folder, you want to make sure you're still in your folder here. We are now going to create a file that will be the JS file that will run our Bitcoin text alert. So now for this, guys, I am using the Atom text editor. You can use whatever text editor you want. But if you want to follow along specifically with this video, then you're going to want to download the Atom text editor, which again, just do a quick Google search for Atom and you'll be able to download that very easily. So now, once we have Atom open here, we're going to want to navigate to where our folder is that's going to contain our program. So once you have that, you're going to go ahead there and create a new file within that folder. So this, again, you guys can just call this whatever you want. I'm going to call it Bitcoin or btc.js. Alright, so now this will open up our new folder. Now I want to show you guys very briefly what Node.js does. Essentially, it just allows us to run JavaScript on our computer instead of having to run JavaScript in a browser. So I'm going to show you guys very quickly here. Again, we can say console.log and we'll just put hello world. And what this will do is when we call or when we start this program, it will just log hello world within our terminal instead of having us to use a browser, or instead of forcing us to use a browser there. So let's go ahead and we'll save that and go back to our folder. So I'm going to move to my desktop and the test folder, and we can see here that it has two files, the package.json file and the btc.js file, which we just created. So now let's go ahead and we're going to type in node, which will signal to our computer to run this file using node.js, and we're going to type node and we're going to type btc.js, which is the name of our JavaScript file. Alright, so as you can see here, it printed hello world to the terminal, which is essentially what we told our program to do here. So now let's close that out, and now we're going to go ahead here and start creating our program. So in order to do this, in order to send the texts, we're going to use a service called Twilio. So you guys are going to want to go over here and go to twilio.com, where you'll be able to sign up. I'll pull it up here. So this is what my dashboard looks like, but go to twilio.com and sign up very quickly. You can do a free trial where it will give you an account service identifier, which we're going to use to send our text, the authentication token, and you're going to want to use these things here in our program later just to send the text. So again, it might sound like a lot right now, but just go ahead and do that. It's actually very simple. So when we get these account service identifier and auth token, we're going to want to use those again when we are importing the Twilio library into our program. And again, if you guys are new to this, what a library is essentially just a big long program which doesn't execute anything but has functions that we can use within our program. So it saves us from having to write a lot of code. So once you guys have gone over to twilio.com and gotten your signed up, you get your number, the phone number you're going to be using to send the text from, the account service identifier, and the authentication token, which is, again, this is all free, all good and easy to do there. You guys are going to want to do that, and then we're going to head back to our file here. So now we're going to get started creating this program. So first, we want to declare a variable that is going to be our service identifier and our auth token, which are just going to be the strings, which are those long strings of numbers and letters. So instead of using var or let to create our variable, we're going to use const, which is essentially the same thing, except when you use const, you know that the contents of your variable is not going to be changing throughout the program. So again, this is just a good practice to use for doing this. That adds a little bit of readability to your code, so you know that, or anyone looking at your code knows that that variable is not going to be changing throughout the program. So let's go ahead and create a variable that has our account service identifier, which again is just this long string here. So go ahead and just copy that and paste that in there. Alright, so we want to give it a name. So we're going to call this account capital S ID, lowercase ID. Alright, so now moving on here, guys, we are going to create another variable using const that is going to be our authentication token. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll do const auth token, we're going to call it. And again, this is just the long string here that is your authentication token. So go ahead and grab that and copy and paste that into your program as well. Next, we are going to use a const require. So I'm going to explain this very quickly for you guys. So what this is again, we're creating a variable that is the library that we are importing into our program in order to use the functions that it provides. So in this case, we're going to be using the Twilio library. So before we do this, guys, what you're going to want to do is go ahead over to, again, open up your command prompt or your terminal here, move over to the folder that your program file is currently in, and go ahead and run something called npm install, and you're going to say npm install Twilio. So what this is going to do is it grabs the Twilio library and downloads it for us in a very easy way that allows us to then import it into our program later. So again, we've got npm install Twilio, and what that stands for is Node Package Manager. So that's just, again, an easy way that comes with NodeJS to install the packages that we need for our program. So go ahead, I've already installed that, so I don't need to run this here, but if you guys haven't and you just installed Node, go ahead and run npm install Twilio. All right, so once we've got that down, we are going to go ahead and create a variable called client, which is going to import our Twilio library. So let's go ahead here and say require, which is a keyword for importing the library, and we are going to say require and Twilio. All right, I'm going to zoom in here just on the code so you guys can see this a little bit easier here. So we've got const client require Twilio. All right, and now we are going to, once we've got that, we're going to open up another set of parentheses, and inside there we are going to put account SID and auth token, which are the two variables that we created above. All right, so now that we've got that, we are going to import one more library called HTTP, which we will use to contact an API to get the price of Bitcoin currently. So again, guys, what an API is basically a way to access a program's data without, or to send and receive data from a program that someone else created without having to use the graphical user interface or the website where we have to navigate around on the website. So that'll just allow us to easily send and receive data. In this case, we're going to be just receiving data, which is going to be the price of a Bitcoin. So let's go ahead here and declare another variable using const, because again, we're not going to be changing this later on in the program. So let's go ahead and say const HTTP, and we're going to say require and HTTP. All right, so now that we've got that, guys, we are going to go ahead and access the coindesk.com API in order to get the price of a Bitcoin. So let's go ahead here and create a comment for ourselves just so we can keep track, which is going to be get the Bitcoin price via Coindesk API. Oh, all right, Coindesk API. Oh, it keeps autofilling for me here. There we go. We're just going to do that. Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and say http.get. So we're using our HTTP library that we imported and using the get function, which is going to send a request to the Coindesk API in order to get the price of a Bitcoin. So we're going to say http.get, and then we're going to open up a parentheses and a squiggly brackets. And the first parameter that we are going to pass to this get function is an object that is going to contain the host name, so api.coindesk.com, and the path to the price of the Bitcoin within the API. So we're going to go ahead here and say host, and then we are going to type in api.coindesk.com. All right, so that'll go ahead and send our request to that address. Now we are going to set the path key to have a value of \v1 \bpi \current price.json. All right. So again, guys, what we're doing is passing the first parameter as an object which contains the host name and the path. All right, so once we've got that done here, we are going to go ahead and actually we have an extra squiggly bracket, so we want to get rid of that one for now. We just have the first one opening up after we call our http.get function, and then we have a parentheses. So now let's add a comma there, and now we are going to add a function for how we want to manipulate the data that comes as a response. So we're going to say we're going to create a function, and we are going to just pass it the response as a parameter, and we are going to go ahead here and say and we are going to send the function and have it return an object that is going to be the data that comes as a response. So let's go ahead and create a variable called body, and we are just going to leave it empty for now. It's later going to contain the data that is the Bitcoin price. So we're going to go ahead here and say create the variable body, just assign it to be an empty variable for now, and we are going to go ahead and now use the response function or we're going to use the response, yes, the response function to grab our data here. So we're going to say response.on, and we're going to pass it the parameter data, and then we're going to have it call a function. All right, so what this is doing, guys, is basically saying that when we send out our response to CoinDesk and it sends back the data that is our response, when the response in comes while the data stream is coming in, we're going to want to call a function. So that's what this is doing here. And we are going to just call a function, and we're going to pass it the parameter or pass it a parameter which is just going to be div, so that will stand for our data. And once we have that, we are going to take our body variable and we are going to add the data response that we get to the body variable. So let's go ahead and do that. So now we've got our body variable with our data response. And now we're going to move down here, add a semicolon, and we're going to now again use response. So now we're going to say again response.on, but now we want this function that we're going to create next to trigger when the response coming back from the CoinDesk API has ended. So we're going to go ahead here and say response.on, and we're going to pass it the first parameter, which is going to be end, and then we're going to call another function. Now, this function here is going to take the data that we've received from CoinDesk, and we are going to pull out the text that is the price of a Bitcoin. So let's go ahead here and say, we'll create a comment. It's just going to be manipulate received data, and just so we know what we're doing here, and we're going to say let parsed. So we're going to create a variable called parsed using let, which is similar to var for declaring variables. And we're going to say let parsed equal json.parse body. All right, so that will go ahead and parse our body string that is our JSON data, or parse our body variable that contains our JSON data in order to find the price of a Bitcoin. So now what we're going to do is say, now we're going to call a function that will send the text message to ourselves that contains the price of the Bitcoin. So we're going to say, we're going to call this function text BTC price, and this is going to be passed a string. We're going to define this function or create the code for it in just a second here, but we're going to pass it a string which is going to be parsed. So again, using our variable that contains the parsed JSON. So we're going to say text BTC price parsed, and it's going to be bpi.usd.rate. So again, this is just going in and taking the information that we received from CoinDesk and we are going to go ahead, and that object comes back with attributes that are like BPI, USD, and rate. So that is going to contain the value that is the price of a Bitcoin within the object that we received from our request to CoinDesk.com or CoinDesk.com's API. So now that we've got that, we're going to go ahead and create this function here. All right. And again, we're just going to add, make sure you guys, if you're following along, add this closing squiggly bracket here that is part of the response function that we are creating, or that we created. So now we're going to go ahead and create the function that will send our text message. So we'll create our comment for ourselves, and again, we are going to call this function text BTC price, like it is up here. So we're going to say function text BTC price, and we are going to call the string that it is passed price. So let's go ahead, and now we're going to use a function from the Twilio library that will allow us to send a text message to the number that we want to send it to. So we're going to say client.messages.create. And again, this is just a function from the Twilio library that we imported. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we are going to, it takes an object as the first parameter. So this object contains 2, which is going to be the number that we want to send it to. So this, guys, is where you plug in your cell phone number here. And make sure that when you signed up for Twilio, this might be a little late here, but make sure that when you signed up for Twilio, you used your phone number, because for the free trial, it only allows you to send texts to your phone number. So we're going to put 2, and then in this string, you want to put your phone number, and that is going to be plus. You want to make sure you have a plus at the beginning of that string, and then 1, and then your phone number following that. So now we're going to go ahead, and once you guys have added your phone number in there, you're going to go ahead and create the from. So that is going to be the text number that, or the phone number that you got when you signed up or for the free trial on Twilio. So they'll give you that phone number, and this is where you just want to put that in. And again, it's going to have the +1 in front of it, or they may already have that on Twilio. So just copy and paste that in there. All right, next we are going to create the body. So this is the text message that is going to be sent, or the contents of the text message that is going to be sent to your phone number. So you're going to have body, and that is going to be, or I put it as Bitcoin price, or Bitcoin is at, and then we have a $, and then we want to go ahead and add the price string that we passed to this function when we called it to our body. So we're going to say Bitcoin price is at, and close that out with our quote, and then we want to add in, or add the string that contains the price of a Bitcoin to our body. So now that we've got that, we are just going to quickly add another function to the bottom here that is in case we have an error when we're sending the text message. We want to be able to see that so we can fix that later on if that occurs. So we have function, and the first parameter is going to be ERR, which we're just going to use later. And then we have second parameter, which is message. All right. And we'll open up our squiggly brackets for this function here. And then we are going to say if there's an error, then we are going to want to output that error. So console.log or console.error error message. And again, console.error is similar to console.log, but it lets us know that that an error is being outputted. So it will output the error message in that format. Now again, guys, we probably won't have to worry about that. There won't be an error when you're doing this, most likely, but just in case. All right, so now that we've got that, let's just go ahead and add the final closing parenthesis and semicolon down here, and we are good to go. So now, guys, if you go ahead and you run this, in order to run this, you want to go ahead and again navigate to the folder that you created this program in. So again, if it was on your desktop, you'd want to open up terminal or command prompt, move to your desktop, and then you want to, using CD and then desktop, and with a space in between, and then you want to go ahead and navigate to the folder that contains your project. So we're going to go ahead and say CD, and in this case, this was just in test. So CD test, and then I can view the contents of that folder, and then you're going to want to type in node to again signal that we are using Node to run this program, and we're going to say Node and then the name of your file. So btc.js in this instance. And then when we run that, it'll go ahead and it will again query or send a request to the CoinDesk API. It'll get back the price of a Bitcoin. It will go ahead and create the text message. It'll add the price of the Bitcoin to the text message content, and it will send it to your phone number. All right, so that should do it, guys. Thank you again for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do subscribe. I'm just getting started, so we got a lot more videos coming, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Be sure to leave any comments or questions in the description. I know this might have been a little bit trickier video because we introduced a lot of new concepts here. So again, take your time with this. Leave any comments or questions below. I'll get right back to you guys, and thank you for watching.